Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History. Today, we're diving deep into the rich, shiny world of American coins, and not just any coin. This is a coin that holds stories, history, and in rare cases, a staggering amount of money. We're talking about the United States of America Kennedy half dollar, specifically the special 1776 to 1976 bicentennial edition. Yeah, that one. You might have seen it in your grandfather's drawer, at a garage sale, or even as loose change sitting in your old wallet. But what you may not realize is this: some versions of this coin are worth serious money. And by serious, I mean life-changing. But before we get to the jaw-dropping price tag, let's take a step back and understand the origins of this legendary coin. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. So, let's begin. In 1964, just months after the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the United States Mint introduced a new coin in his honor, the Kennedy half dollar. This move was a tribute to a leader who inspired a generation, a man whose face would now be immortalized in silver. But our spotlight today isn't on the regular Kennedy half dollar. Oh no! We're diving into the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial Kennedy half dollar, a coin that marks the 200th birthday of the United States. That's right. This coin was minted to celebrate 2 centuries of American independence. Now, here's where things get interesting. Unlike other coins, the bicentennial Kennedy half dollar doesn't have just one date, it has 2. 1776 and 1976, boldly engraved. That's already a visual reminder that you're holding a piece of America's anniversary in your hands. But it doesn't stop there. The reverse of the coin, usually showing the presidential seal, was redesigned for this special edition. It features Independence Hall, the historic building in Philadelphia where both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were debated and adopted. The phrase, 200 Years of Freedom, isn't printed on the coin, but you can feel it in every detail of the design. Now, this coin came in 3 main versions: the clad version for circulation, the silver-clad version for collectors, and the proof version, minted with mirror-like finishes. The silver versions contain 40% silver, not quite sterling, but enough to give it that gleam that collectors love. Millions were produced, but here's the kicker: not all coins are created equal. Some were minted with minor errors. Others were struck at different mints, Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco, each with their own characteristics. A small variation in mint mark, a misalignment, or even a slightly different strike can mean the difference between a 50-cent piece and a fortune. But hold on. You might be thinking, these were made in the millions. Why would anyone pay top dollar for one? Great question. It's true, most bicentennial Kennedy half dollars are only worth face value or maybe a few dollars, depending on their condition. But among them, hidden like treasures in a sea of metal, are the unicorns, coins in flawless, perfect, museum-grade condition. Coins that were never circulated, never touched, never even breathed on wrong. These coins are often referred to as high-grade proof strikes or MS-70 condition, and they're the crown jewels for coin collectors. Now here comes the plot twist, the part that turns this historical artifact into a golden opportunity. There are rare instances where one of these Kennedy half dollars, minted in 1976, celebrating the birth of the nation, preserved in pristine condition, and often with an error or unique strike, has sold at auction for an astonishing $245,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that was once worth 50 cents, now worth $245,000, and it's real. These kinds of coins, known as rarity-grade investment pieces, are often sold in elite numismatic auctions, far from the reach of ordinary circulation. They may have deep cameo finishes, error strikes, or be part of an ultra-low mintage group. Whatever the reason, they are the dream find. So the next time you find yourself holding a Kennedy half dollar dated 1776 to 1976, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment, flip it over, check the mint mark. Look at the condition. Is it silver? Is it proof? Could it be one of the ultra-rare ones? Because while most are just coins, a very rare few are gateways to serious wealth and history combined. Today's episode is going to blow your mind, because we're exploring one of the most curious and controversial coins in American numismatic history. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. What if I told you there's a Kennedy half dollar with the date 1918? I know, you're already raising your eyebrows. How could that even be possible when the Kennedy half dollar was first introduced in 1964? Well, get ready. Because what we're diving into today is a strange, rare, and fascinating anomaly in the world of coins, a piece that sparks debate, stirs excitement, and for a very few lucky collectors, brings in a fortune. Let's unravel this numismatic mystery. So first off, let's talk about the basics. The Kennedy half dollar is a coin that was first struck in 1964, just a few short months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The nation was mourning, the world was watching, and in honor of JFK's legacy, the United States Mint introduced a new 50-cent piece bearing his profile. The obverse features a bold portrait of Kennedy, sharp, confident, and eternal. The reverse originally carried the presidential seal, an eagle clutching arrows and an olive branch, surrounded by stars. It's an iconic design that's endured through generations. But here's where it gets wild: some coins have surfaced bearing the date 1918, and they look exactly like a Kennedy half dollar. Same face. Same style. Same coin. But the year? Completely off, and that's what makes them so incredibly fascinating. Now, let's get something straight. These aren't regular mint issues. These 1918 Kennedy half dollars are believed to have been created under very rare, very specific, and very mysterious circumstances. Some experts think they may have been die test pieces, pattern coins, or even fantasy strikes made by skilled engravers, perhaps as unofficial samples or private mint collectibles. Others whisper rumors of mint errors or internal prototypes that never saw public circulation. Whatever their origin, the fact is this: they exist, and they've turned the heads of even the most seasoned collectors. But here's the kicker: not all of these 1918 Kennedy half dollars are created equal. Some are poorly struck and easily dismissed as novelty items. But others? They're in pristine condition. Sharp details. Full luster. Virtually untouched by time. These are the coins that command attention in auctions, that raise eyebrows behind glass cases at coin expos, and that start bidding wars between elite collectors. Let's pause for a moment and consider the historical context. In 1918, World War I was raging across Europe. The United States was deeply involved. The world was changing fast. And yet, somehow, in some secretive corner of the coin world, there may have been a vision, an alternate timeline, where Kennedy's image appeared not in 1964, but decades earlier. Imagine that. A coin from 1918, featuring the face of a man who wasn't even president yet. A man who, in that year, was just a baby. That paradox is exactly what makes these coins so unique, so strange, and so desirable. Now let's talk about value. Because while many people collect coins for history, passion, and preservation, some do it for the treasure, and let me tell you, treasure is exactly what this is. You see, when a coin defies logic, breaks historical rules, and still manages to look flawless, that's when it becomes gold in the eyes of collectors. One particular example of the 1918 Kennedy half dollar, flawless in condition, believed to be a one-of-a-kind specimen, was stored away, hidden from the public eye for decades. It traveled through private hands, changed ownership at elite auctions, and eventually made its way into the spotlight. And when it did, it shattered expectations, because this extraordinary coin, this impossible piece of American numismatic folklore, was eventually appraised and sold for an astonishing $233,000. Yes. You heard that right. A coin that never should have existed. A date that doesn't match its series. And yet, $233,000. So the next time you're flipping through your old coin collection, digging through your grandfather's dusty drawer, or spotting something unusual at a flea market, keep your eyes wide open. That strange, off-date coin. It could be history trying to speak. It could be the key to a story worth more than just silver or copper. It could be the next big discovery. Today, we're going deep into a coin that you may have overlooked 100 times. Maybe you've held it. Maybe you've spent it. Maybe it's sitting in your change jar right now. We're talking about the 1981 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that might seem ordinary, until you learn what's hiding beneath the surface. Now, before we jump into values, rare finds, and a price tag that'll make your jaw drop, let's roll back the years and understand why this coin is so important in the first place. The Kennedy Half Dollar series began in 1964, just months after the heartbreaking assassination of President John F. Kennedy. America needed a way to honor its fallen leader. A man who stood for hope, ambition, and change. The U.S. Mint responded quickly, replacing the Franklin half dollar with a brand new design bearing the face of JFK. From that moment forward, the Kennedy half dollar wasn't just a coin, it became a symbol. A tribute. A national keepsake. Fast forward to the year 1981. Ronald Reagan had just taken office. MTV had just launched. Space shuttle missions were ramping up. And in the middle of all this change, the U.S. Mint quietly produced another run of Kennedy half dollars. No big redesign. No special commemoration. Just another year in the series. Or so it seemed. Here's where the story gets a whole lot more interesting. You see, by 1981, the use of half dollars in daily transactions had dropped significantly. Most people simply weren't using them anymore. They weren't common in stores. They didn't come in rolls from banks like they used to. In fact, the general public had almost forgotten about the 50-cent piece altogether. So what did the Mint do? They stopped making Kennedy half dollars for general circulation that year. That's right, none of the 1981 Kennedy half dollars were released into everyday use. Every single one was struck for collectors only. If you wanted one, you had to order a mint set or proof set directly from the U.S. Mint. That already makes the 1981 edition something special. Because if you've got one in your pocket change, chances are, it's not supposed to be there. Now let's go even deeper. The 1981 Kennedy half dollar came from 3 U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The coins from San Francisco were primarily proof strikes, meaning they were minted with a polished finish for collectors. Sharp details, mirror backgrounds, and that crisp contrast that screams quality. But here's the twist, not all coins came out perfect. And in the world of coin collecting, imperfections, especially rare ones, can lead to huge payoffs. Some 1981 Kennedy half dollars were struck with off-center designs, double dies, or misaligned planchets. These are known as mint errors, and depending on their severity and clarity, they can transform a basic coin into a six-figure rarity. But wait. That's just the error story. There's another layer here, the condition. Coin collectors live by a very specific scale called the Sheldon grading scale, ranging from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 70 is considered perfect. No flaws. No scratches. No marks. As if it rolled straight out of the press and never touched human hands. Now think about this, a 1981 Kennedy half dollar in mint condition, with flawless detail, struck in proof finish, possibly with a rare error, and preserved in a way that makes even seasoned collectors stop in their tracks. That's a once-in-a-lifetime find. You see, these coins, especially the ultra-rare varieties, don't show up in pocket change. They're found in forgotten safe deposit boxes, inherited collections, or tucked inside old U.S. Mint sets that haven't seen daylight in decades, and once in a blue moon, one of them makes it to the auction block. When that happens, the world of numismatics holds its breath. Because we're not talking about 50 cents anymore. We're not even talking about $100, or $1,000. These elite-grade coins, preserved against all odds, can fetch unbelievable prices, and now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of the finest known 1981 Kennedy half dollars, graded at the highest level, struck with an ultra-rare error, and presented in flawless condition, was once sold at a premium coin auction. It didn't just sell. It shattered records. That single 50-cent coin, born in a year when it wasn't even meant for circulation, was sold for an astonishing total of $200,000, yes. $200,000. So the next time you're sorting through coins, flipping through a mint set, or eyeing something unusual in your coin box, stop and look again. That 1981 Kennedy half dollar you thought was ordinary, it might just be holding a secret worth a small fortune. Today, we're taking a deep, fascinating dive into a coin that's been flying under the radar for years, the 1983 Kennedy half dollar. Now, you may be thinking, 1983? What's so special about that year? It wasn't a bicentennial. There wasn't a new president. No big coin anniversary. Just another year in the long run of Kennedy half dollars, right? Wrong, because what most people don't realize is that the 1983 Kennedy half dollar hides some serious secrets. And for a few very lucky collectors, it's transformed from spare change into a life-changing fortune. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll discover how a coin most people ignore ended up selling for an incredible $205,000. Let's get into it. First, let's set the stage. The Kennedy half dollar has a powerful origin story. It was created in 1964, less than 5 months after President John F. Kennedy was tragically assassinated. Americans were heartbroken, and the U.S. Mint moved quickly to honor him with a new coin. It replaced the Franklin half dollar, and within weeks, it was one of the most sought-after coins in the country. Fast forward to 1983, the United States was going through transformation. Ronald Reagan was in his first term. The economy was shifting. Technology was on the rise. And the U.S. Mint was still producing Kennedy half dollars, but with a twist. Unlike the early silver issues, the 1983 coins were struck using a copper-nickel clad composition. That meant no silver, just a mix of base metals, but don't let that fool you. Because value in coins doesn't always come from what they're made of, it comes from how they were made, how many were made, and what happened along the way. Here's what makes the 1983 Kennedy half dollar so interesting. First, these coins were never issued in mint sets that year. That's right, number 1983 mint sets were sold to the public due to budget cuts and production decisions. That meant collectors who wanted a perfect, uncirculated 1983 half dollar had a real problem. The only way to get one? You had to pull it from circulation, and as you might guess, coins pulled from circulation tend to get scratches, dings, and wear fast. Finding a pristine one was incredibly rare. That alone makes high-grade 1983 Kennedy half dollars highly collectible. But there's more. That year, the mint used certain dies that resulted in what's known as strong strike varieties, coins with ultra-sharp detail. On the reverse, you can spot these by examining the eagle's feathers and the lettering. Some were struck with amazing clarity, others, not so much. And then, there are the errors. Yes, the word that gets every coin collector's heart racing. Some 1983 Kennedy half dollars were struck on planchets meant for other coins. Others were double-struck, off-center, or showed signs of die cracks, clashes, or other minting anomalies. These error coins are incredibly rare, and when paired with a date like 1983, when coins were already scarce in top condition, you've got something truly special. Let's not forget the grading scale. Coin collectors rely on the Sheldon scale, ranging from 1 to 70. The higher the number, the better the condition. Most coins that enter circulation fall below MS 60. But if you find a 1983 Kennedy half dollar graded MS 67, MS 68, or Dream Big, MS 69 or MS 70, you're looking at a unicorn. Imagine this, a coin that never made it into a collector's mint set, never meant to be saved, yet somehow survives in flawless condition. A coin with perfect surfaces, no bag marks, full luster, and razor-sharp detail. It's rare. It's real. And when one shows up at auction, people pay attention. Now for the best part. One such coin, a 1983 Kennedy half dollar in flawless, mint state, combined with an unusual die variety and error strike, was submitted to a premier coin grading service. It came back with a near-perfect score. It was verified, authenticated, and submitted to an elite-level coin auction, and when the gavel dropped, that small piece of copper and nickel had officially sold for $205,000. Let that sink in. A coin that started as 50 cents, struck in a year when collectors had almost no access to uncirculated versions, became one of the most valuable Kennedy half dollars ever known. $205,000. Now you might be wondering, what should you look for? Here's your quick checklist. Mint mark, P for Philadelphia and D for Denver. Look for strong strikes. Condition, uncirculated or better is key. No scratches, full luster, errors, double dies, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets are your jackpot signals. Grading: anything MS65 and above is valuable. MS68 or higher. That's when things get wild. So the next time you're digging through your old change drawer, flipping through a forgotten collection, or visiting a flea market, keep your eyes open for that unassuming 1983 Kennedy half dollar. It might not shimmer like silver. It might not shout from the coin case. But buried in its details could be a quiet secret. A secret worth $205,000. Today, we're diving deep into a coin that's everywhere, and yet, very few people understand its true value. You've probably seen it, maybe even held it a dozen times without a second thought. It's the 1971 Kennedy half dollar. Sounds ordinary, right? But what if I told you that within this seemingly common coin lies one of the greatest modern-day numismatic surprises? What if I told you that under the right conditions, this humble half dollar could be worth more than a sports car, or even a house? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, we're going to uncover how one version of this coin sold for an unbelievable $217,000. But first, let's rewind the clock. The Kennedy half dollar was first minted in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, just months after his assassination. It was a moment of grief, reflection, and national unity. The coin was rushed into production, replacing the Franklin half dollar, and became an instant collectible. Originally, the coin was made of 90% silver, a nod to earlier American coinage traditions. But as silver prices soared and the economy shifted, changes were on the horizon. By 1971, a major turning point had arrived. That year marked the first time the Kennedy half dollar was minted using copper-nickel-clad composition instead of silver. That's right, no silver at all in the 1971 version. It was a dramatic change in U.S. coinage, closing the door on the silver era for most circulating coins, and because of that, most people wrote the 1971 Kennedy half dollar off as a non-collectible. Big mistake. Here's where things get interesting. Even though the mint had officially switched over to base metals, a few coins slipped through the cracks, struck mistakenly on leftover silver planchets. These are known in the collecting world as wrong planchet errors. So imagine this. The presses were ready to strike coins in copper-nickel. But a few silver blanks, left over from 1970, accidentally got mixed in. These coins came out with the 1971 date, but made of 40% silver, even though they weren't supposed to exist. That's what makes them rare, but it doesn't stop there. Some 1971 Kennedy half dollars also exhibit double dies, where the coin design is duplicated slightly because of misalignment during the minting process. Other errors include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. These minting flaws turn a common coin into a one-in-a-million collector's dream. Let's talk about mints for a second. The 1971 Kennedy half dollar was produced at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Denver coins are marked with a small D under Kennedy's neck. The Philadelphia coins? No mint mark at all. Now, here's the thing, coins from both mints can be valuable. But the Philadelphia ones are especially prized in high-grade condition, because the quality control wasn't as tight as Denver's. That makes uncirculated or proof-like Philadelphia strikes much harder to find, and that brings us to the grading scale. Coin collectors use a scale from 1 to 70, where 70 is a perfect specimen, no scratches, no dings, flawless luster, struck with precision. A 1971 Kennedy half dollar graded MS65 or higher is already impressive. MS68 or MS69? You're entering the elite zone. Most coins get worn down in circulation, tossed in drawers, rubbed raw by time. But a coin that's survived since 1971 in near-perfect condition? That's a coin that people will fight for at auction. So how does a coin like this go from 50 cents to something extraordinary? It starts with rarity. Add a mint error, mix in flawless condition, sprinkle in decades of history, and what you have is a collector's holy grail. These rare 1971 half dollars often surface in unexpected places: coin rolls, estate collections, old forgotten bank boxes. And once in a great while, one of them will get graded, authenticated, and presented to the world. When that happens, everything changes, because in the world of numismatics, even a coin that was never meant to be valuable can defy all odds, if it's rare enough, perfect enough, and backed by the right story. And now, here it is. Point one such coin, a 1971 Kennedy half dollar, struck in error on a silver planchet, in immaculate condition, certified by a top-tier grading service, and confirmed to be one of only a tiny handful ever discovered, went up for auction. The bidding started strong. Collectors recognized what they were looking at. A mistake. A survivor. A historical glitch in the minting matrix, and by the time the final bid was placed, and the auctioneer's gavel hit the table, this single 50-cent piece had shattered expectations. That coin, that 1971 Kennedy half dollar, sold for a breathtaking total of $217,000, yes. $217,000, all for a coin most people would have passed over without a second glance. So the next time you're sorting through old change, searching through coin rolls, or flipping through your dad's dusty coin album, pause when you see a 1971 Kennedy half dollar. Because it might just be more than change. It might be history. It might be a secret treasure. It might be $217,000 waiting to be discovered. Thanks for watching. If this story inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more unbelievable coin tales, and drop a comment below. Have you ever found a coin with a secret? Let us know. Until next time, keep hunting, keep flipping, and keep believing that the next coin in your hand could change your life forever. 0.